Edited out. So welcome to those that have joined us while I've been doing Zoom presentation 101. And as I mentioned before, thank you so much for caring about the mental health and wellbeing of in your community. My name is Janice Henderson. I'm the Partnership Programs Manager for the In a Good Place program at FRRR, and co-hosting with me and keeping me under control is April Merrick, who is the grants manager for FRRR in our granting team. We've just had a restructure, so we're learning our new titles. So without any further ado, I would like to acknowledge the country that we are all meeting on and the traditional owners of the place where I live, where you live, where we all work and play. We acknowledge their continuing connection to land, water and community, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. I'd also like to acknowledge that there will be reference to mental health issues today and to suicide. I recognise all of those who have been touched by mental ill health or bereaved by suicide. If this presentation raises any issues for you, please reach out to a trusted person for support. So for today, we're going to have a very brief overview of FRRR and the In a Good Place program. Then I'm going to share with you some grant writing tips and some resources that we have available, and there'll be time for questions as well. If you've got any questions as we go through, can you just pop them in the chat? We appreciate all of your comments because they help us to help you. We can go through and have a look at those chat questions and try and answer them. And we'll also have a couple of moments to just check in as we go along. So just a little bit about FRRR. FRRR has a vision of a vibrant, resilient and sustainable and empowered remote, rural and regional Australia. And we're a DGR1 endorsed charitable organisation, and we're the only national foundation at the moment that focuses specifically on ensuring the social and economic strength of communities by aligning government, philanthropic and community purposes with investment. So we back people and the communities and the organisations that are in and of the place where they live, because we know that targeted, well-informed investment stimulates ideas that lead to positive change, both big and small, but especially in smaller communities. Now, I'm sure I don't need to go into this too far, but we know that the people who live and work in rural, remote and very remote communities love where they live. By nature, the community is resilient, hardworking, innovative and spirited, but services and access inequities they encounter by virtue of their location compounds the ever-present pressures of life living on the land. So by nature, remote and rural communities are resilient and hardworking, but maintaining mental health is a multifaceted and lifelong process, and it requires a range of approaches. The In a Good Place program supports rural and remote and regional communities in their efforts to strengthen mental health and wellbeing for everyone in their communities. It provides communities with support for specific mental health needs as they see them. Communities know what they need and what works for their community. And one of the things that FRRR does is make sure that we hear your voices and support what it is that you see that you need. The In a Good Place program is a national program. It focuses on place-based, community-led mental health and wellbeing projects or activities or initiatives. It seeks to benefit community members, those at risk or those who are experiencing early mental health challenges, and encourages them to reach out and get some help or access or make use of tools and resources that are available to them that they may not know of. These objectives can be interpreted quite broadly, and part of the challenge in assessing the program is determining those projects that have a direct and clear focus on strengthening mental health and wellbeing as the primary outcome, as opposed to those where supporting mental health health is a secondary outcome of the project. The superpower of the In a Good Place program is helping communities in breaking down that stigma that often surrounds mental health, especially in smaller communities. It empowers communities to bring mental health and wellbeing out into the open, normalising that discussion, making it okay to talk about it, okay to reach out, and okay to ask for help. It's a proactive program, so the projects that we see may be in response to a suicide in the community or a decrease in mental health and wellbeing due to the local impact of an event. And like other FRRR programs, it supports communities doing it for themselves. Projects typically bring people together, sometimes to heal, but always to learn. So the program is split into two streams. We have the community wellbeing stream, which focuses on that general mental health and wellbeing, that social and emotional wellbeing within the remote rural communities, and the farmer and farming stream, which specifically wants to support the mental health and wellbeing of farmers and the communities that they live in. So by definition, farming communities refers to remote, rural and regional communities that have a high dependency on agriculture and related industries. Don't worry if you're not too sure which category your project might fit in, because we can swap it at our end if we feel that it's a better fit. Both streams have roughly the same amount of funding. So who's eligible to apply? There is a plethora of information on the FRRR website for each of our programs, including the In a Good Place program. So we're looking for applicants that need to be a not-for-profit organisation with an ABN or an incorporation certificate, but you don't have to have any special taxation status. Projects must be charitable. That means that they offer a clear benefit to as many people as possible. And projects must benefit communities in that very remote or rural regional Australia. So please have a look at the guidelines on the web page. The picture that we've got there is what you'll see if you go to the In a Good Place program page, and you can click through those various tabs. Each of them has an accordion. So underneath there's drop-down information, and there's lots of information there that might help answer a question for you. So what can be funded? Charitable projects that use non-clinical approaches to engage people that are community-based and are easy to access. So we're looking for projects that must address a specific mental health and wellbeing issue in the community, projects that are initiated and delivered by the local community or not-for-profit organisation rather than organisations from outside. If you are an organisation from outside of that community that you want to work in, and you're applying for the funds, you'll need to provide sufficient evidence from that local community that it endorses you and the project that you're wanting to bring, or that it has initiated the partnership to deliver the project. Easiest way to do that is through support letters. FRRR is unlikely to fund a project if there's no evidence of local community support. Projects that serve very remote and rural communities with populations of under 10,000 are preferred. So we are looking for those really small communities that often find it so hard to attract any sort of funding. Applications from bigger centres over 10,000 will also be considered if the project can demonstrate that it supports people from surrounding smaller areas. So while we consider all requests that come our way, priority will be given to those that are delivered by non-clinical providers of mental health, like school counsellors, pastoral care teams, neighbourhood or community groups, those that improve the accessibility and availability of mental health services and tools in areas where it's either really limited or it's really hard to access, that kind of thing. So maybe through technology or other innovative and creative methods. Projects that improve the knowledge of mental health services or tools or support, so increasing those skills through the development of local resources or training. Create innovative or inclusive responses that are pretty out there maybe for your community, but they're going to work, something different that build those social connections that improve the mental health, such as delivering or providing activities, events, programs or services that might not be available. And we want projects that confront that stigma, that negativity and hesitancy around help-seeking behaviour in a locally responsive way, such as community events or activities with a strong positive mental health message, encouraging people to reach out. And we want to support local organisations to develop the skills and resources to confidently and safely provide mental health and wellbeing support to people in their community. There are a few things that we can't fund. This is generally for all of the FRRR programs, and for specifically the In a Good Place program, we won't be funding clinical or acute mental health projects. We really are looking at that grassroots community level. All of this information is in our guidelines. The common issues that we see coming through the applications to the In a Good Place program, I'm sure are not going to come as a surprise to anyone. So we know that some of the pressures are cumulative and successive events, poor seasons, adverse weather events, either prolonged or sudden, poor markets, loss of a major employer or industry, the she'll be right culture, or I don't want to be a burden, or I'm the only one that this is happening to, so there must be something wrong with me. That outdated personal and societal attitudes like real men don't cry, that entrenched stigma and stoicism in communities. There's also, we hear lack of services, long waiting lists, long travel times to access appointments if you can get them, and overburdened and under-resourced workforces. And people not knowing where to go to get information on what to do, which is often linked to an unexpected catalyst event, such as a suicide, something that becomes a call to action across the community. Some common approaches that we're seeing through our application. So these are the types of things that people have been funded for: education and capacity building, so suicide prevention, mental health first aid training, safe assist, accidental counsellor, all of those well established and evaluated programs that help build those skills and communication skills for people. That stigma busting events for specific cohorts, such as men or women, the ag sector workers, young people, creating shared experience opportunities for the community that help promote that open discussion and normalising the conversation around mental health, addressing loneliness and isolation, creating a reason to come together, knowing that to have good mental health and well-being, you need to be connected with people. General mental health awareness activities, mental health by stealth, where you may be doing a creative activity, but by doing that creative activity, you're coming together, you're working with your hands, but you're also talking to people, you're creating connections, and there may be a guided facilitator working with you as well to help guide that conversation. Creating opportunities to learn and practice mental health and wellbeing self-care practices, and community organisations that unfortunately are left to fill the gap by departing services. So often it may be a counsellor who is then hosted through a neighbourhood house because there's now no longer a service available through a health service. And bringing it to where they gather. So bringing information to sale yards, to industry events, to workplaces. And the picture there is Alan from the Burnett region, who goes to sale yards, the cattle sales across 4 areas in the Burnett region, and he's there every sale. The farmers know him. He's a farmer himself. They come and have a chat, and he can do warm referrals to people. People know that he's there. They know next time I go to the sale yards, I can pop in and see Alan, and I can have a chat and maybe get a referral to somewhere. So bringing it to where they are. Right, so that was a really quick run through. I actually can't see anyone at the moment, but April, if there are any quick questions in the chat.
There's one, and the
Mm-hmm.
question is, can we apply through our local triathlon club?
Uh, it depends on what the project is. Sport for sport's sake is not charitable for FRRR under the taxation law, but it depends on what it is that you're wanting to do. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you about your project to see if it is a charitable project, and then we can work through it from there. We have funded sports clubs, lots of football and netball clubs for mental health awareness events that they host at the club that are open for the broader community.
There's another one.
Mm-hmm.
When will this recording be sent by email or
Okay.
accessible?
Okay, so I can send out the PowerPoint presentation as a PDF fairly quickly. The recording itself will need to be edited, like all that kerfuffle at the front. So I'm not 100% sure, but we're hoping that we would be able to get this out to people by early next week.
It'll be on our website as a
Correct.
link. A
Yes,
link will be sent to them.
yes,
Yeah.
it will definitely be on our website.
Um, and there's more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Can you confirm the funds 2 times 20K twice per year? There's a question
So
mark. Yep.
So the grants available are up to $20,000 per grant, and we have a pool of roughly 250,000 each round. That when I set the guidelines up for this round, I had 200,000, but we do have some extra money in, so we're back up to our 250,000. So grants up to 20,000 from a pool of approximately 250,000.
Okay, there's another one
Mm-hmm.
from Claire McCabe. As a national charity holding events to connect people in communities across Australia in places we've identified as being part of our community, what
Mm-hmm.
kind of evidence is sufficient from the community council, doctors, or research? Are these people in these communities enough?
Okay, so for when you're moving into communities to deliver something, what we would be looking at would be a support letter from the community partner that you may be working with. So normally when people do a bit of a roadshow, they connect ahead of time with an organisation or two organisations so that they have that connection into the community where they're going to set up, have that local network. So a support letter from who your community partner may be. And there would be some reasoning of why you're going to those specific communities, why you're targeting those. We do have a location data tool on our website that is available for grant seekers to get in and have a look at some ABS data, some health data at a very local level, as much as the statistics will go down to that level. So it's possible to go in, do a little bit of research based on postcode or town name, that may help support the evidence for what you're doing. Again, I'm happy to take a phone call or an email later to specifically talk about your project, but we need to know that if you're rocking up to a community to deliver something, do they actually want it? Do they need it? So it's that kind of evidence that we're looking for, which I'll go into a little bit later as well.
And we've got some more questions from John Lee. We are in Bendigo, not a small community, but
Mm-hmm.
we are working with some of the most vulnerable and marginalised recovering from addictions. Would we be eligible?
A good question. Yes and no. It really comes down to the specifics of the program. Bigger regional centres like Bendigo, Ballarat, just using Victorian examples, are tough in that they have really big populations, but they're also the major service centres. There's also some hard decisions around the intersectionality between mental health and alcohol and other drugs domestic and family violence, all of those kind of things as well. So it depends on what sort of project you want to deliver as well. So again, I encourage you to either send me an email outlining your project or a phone call so that we can talk specifically about your project and I can help guide you.
We've got another one from Beck
Mm-hmm.
Lambert.
Mm-hmm.
Do you look only at the population, or if it was a group within a community, is that okay? E.g., Bega has 40,000 people,
Mm-hmm.
but we would be working with youth. Is that okay?
Again, it would be where the youth are coming from, whether you are working in with a school cohort, so you might be working with students that are coming in from surrounding areas into schooling in Bega, or whether it's just those that are living in Bega itself. Really good question. And really hard to give a definitive answer on without knowing further details of your project. So it sounds like there's another discussion to be had with that group as well. I'm just a little bit conscious of time. Are there many more questions in the chat there, April?
Just one, can people book calls to have a chat?
I love it when people book calls because that means that I can put everything else off the table and speak specifically to you about your project. So please feel free to shoot me an email and say, can we set up a time? It can either be over the phone or a video. I don't mind. I'd love to talk to specifics about, I love to talk to people about the specifics of their project. That sounds a bit better.
Are ticketed events eligible?
It depends on what you're using the funding for. We do encourage, um, if you're wanting us to support an event that people are going to then pay money for, to be able to attend. It depends on the cost of those tickets, whether it's going to then exclude the very people that you might be wanting to attend. But we also know that the sales from those tickets are often required to actually fund the overhead for the events. So we have funded ticketed events before, but they've been pretty low cost, like might be $20 for a family or something like that. There's also been provisions that if there's people that they know would benefit from attending the event, but just cannot do that they actually have provisions to provide free tickets or something like that. If it's for mental health first aid training or some sort of training like that, it's great to provide it for free. But experience tells us, and from others that have run those events, that if they make it that it's only going to cost $20 for someone to attend, people are more likely to turn up if they've actually paid for a ticket than if it's free. To the next one. Okay, so there's 4 key stages of applying for a grant. The preparation and planning, which is where a lot of you are now. And that's the bit that should take the most time, but it rarely does, unfortunately. Identifying opportunities. So that's the bit that's often left to chance. But if you identify some opportunities now, it really goes towards your preparation and planning and strengthens your application overall. Writing the application is actually the easy bit if you've done all of your planning. And then if you're successful, you get to deliver and then report. And that's the fun bit and the celebration. So with the planning and the preparation, it involves some basic information gathering or problem solving. The why, the what, the who, how, when, where, how much. The longest part of the process it is, but it provides the foundation for your application. There's a great video on FRRR's website for communities that has a really good resource for groups to view, to work through, to help with their planning. Gathering people around the table, just having that conversation and starting to map out the who, what, when, why, how, really helps to start to solidify your idea. So think about what's the issue or what's the opportunity? Who else in the community might share your vision? Make sure the idea considers the wider community. Are others excited or enthusiastic about the project as you are? Or can you connect with other groups that have similar ideas or interests that could support or strengthen your project idea? Can you build on something that's already established and that works? Or can you make it even better, go wider, have more impact? Are you able to upscale if you had some money? When you've landed on a concept but you're still unsure whether it's a great fit, give us a call or email and run it up the flagpole, so to speak. But don't leave that until the last minute, because then you really cut yourself short on time to put the application together. Consider the what and the why. What are you wanting to do? What is it that you're trying to address? What is the issue that you've identified, and why is it important? Do others see it as important? Demonstrating the need in the community is really important to us and your application, and it'll have more chance of success if you can back it up with evidence. So you can perhaps use a council community plan, or statistics from that plan, or local health district data, or primary healthcare data. Networks or community health services might have some data in the area. ABS also gives some great evidence where something is maybe higher than average in your area. Or you could actually consult your community. You could do a survey using SurveyMonkey or a Facebook poll or something like that, something that gives us some evidence to show that you've actually done a little bit of research about what the need and the issue is in your community. So this is just an example of where somebody perhaps hasn't done some planning and others who have done some planning. So, and we have seen this. An answer to the question is, we want to run some workshops. And that doesn't really tell us a real lot. But if we can see an answer that says something like, we will run 2 low-cost mental health workshops with mental health first aid training for the Bongo community to increase local capacity, skills and knowledge about mental health, and to improve opportunities for locals to support each other during challenging times. You know, something like that. So think about the specifics of your project, and that really gives us a great idea on that we can see the evidence that you've actually done some really good planning around what you're wanting to do. Answering the what. We've heard that some people are struggling, or we think it's a good idea and it's been talked about for a while. That really doesn't tell us a lot. Our consultation with the youth group, they've given us this feedback. Community survey has shown a need for whatever it might be. The community meeting held at whatever with number of attendees highlighted a strong interest with many people wanting to participate. That kind of thing shows us the evidence of why you're wanting to do it. Don't leave the assessment team asking questions. If you have any of the consultations, surveys or meetings documented, provide that documentation if possible. If you're wanting to do a youth project, have young people been consulted at all? That's the kind of question that we'll be asking when we're reading through. With the who, we look to see who you've engaged with and who you're going to be using in the right sense of the word to deliver your project. So we value community partnerships. So we like to know who's involved in your project. It helps us identify the community support. Again, if young people or any other specific cohort is the focus of that project, have they been involved in the design? Will they be involved in the delivery of it? We also value volunteer-led projects. If volunteers are involved, you can estimate how many voluntary hours are going to be put into the project. What beneficiaries, or who's going to be the beneficiaries of the application? Who are you, the project, I should say. Who are you actually going to be doing this for? And how many do you think are going to benefit? 2 people? 200 people? And just a hot tip there, we like to know what the skills and experience are of the key people in your project. Their subject knowledge, their understanding and relationship with the people that the project's going to benefit, Have they had experience in running these things before? And specifically around In a Good Place program, if you're bringing in a speaker or a trainer, we really like to know who they are and what their qualifications are so that we know that the project is going to be safe. The how, the when, the where, just those basic things, the key planning, your key tasks and resources required, and who's going to be responsible for when, responsible and when, those critical project dates. And do those dates work for the community? Like, is it going to be something that's going to enable maximum participation of your audience, like time of day or the evening? Is it going to clash with anticipated sowing or cropping times or other community events? Or maybe can you leverage other community events and tack in with what they're doing? Make sure that if your venue is going to be accessible, that there's parking and that's got everything you need. You might need a wet weather plan. Do you need to book the hall? And think about what success is going to look like for you. You need to plan now about how you're going to know if your project's been a success. How are you going to measure that? And what will you measure? How do you know if you've shifted something? What is it that you expect to shift? Evaluation and documentation needs to be planned ahead of time. Doesn't have to be all laid out and beautifully presented in an application, but you need to have an idea about how you're going to measure the shift that you're aiming for. And don't underestimate the value of photos and videos to help tell your story. In fact, that's a great opportunity to include young people in your project. Get them behind the camera. So here's some other examples of some not so great and some better ones. So we're not sure when the project's going to happen. This will be determined if we get the grant. Excellent. Well, that's not overly helpful for us when we're assessing, but saying that the project will take place in 3 different venues in the town between September and June, and the timing will give people maximum opportunity to participate, allowing for blah, blah, blah. That shows us that you've had consideration around the timing of your community, the movements, the normal movements that happen in your community. Sometimes events work better in the day. Sometimes because people work full-time or part-time or have kids, it's better for something in the evening. So you know your community's best around the timing. Show us that you've taken that into consideration. How much will it cost? Sometimes people underestimate, sometimes they overestimate. Consider the whole project, including the less obvious. If particularly in more remote areas, freight can be an incredible additional cost, and the timing of your getting something to you may be impeded by wet season or normal flooding season or something like that. Get quotes for larger items if you can, for $1,000 or over if you're buying equipment for something, but don't make up costs. And even if you don't have quotes, explain how you've calculated your estimate, or if you're actually you want to purchase something, you can do screenshots from shopping carts that we go, oh, wow, gee, that particular thing is expensive, but they haven't made it up. Here's proof that it costs that much for this kind of thing. Also, your income, co-contribution, so the money that your own group puts into it, is really highly regarded in a good place. And we know that a lot of small groups don't have the money to be able to put lots in, and they often make up for that in their volunteer hours. But if you put at least a small amount of money in, it shows that you're committed to the project. And if you can get others on board, it might be a local council grant, it might be some fundraising that you've had, some other money that comes in that can be put towards your project is also great. Not necessary, but great. And in-kind, don't underestimate the value of in-kind support. It's always something that when you're talking to people and you're getting those community partnerships, sometimes the venue hire will be provided for free for you if you ask. So it's always a good idea to know what your costs are going to be, what you're going to tag the FRRR grant money to, and see if you can get things at a reduced cost if possible. Not always possible, but sometimes. And don't pad your budget out up to the full 20,000. We'll estimate 5,000 here and 2,000 there and 3,000 there without giving us any sort of breakdown on how you got to that. A padded budget shows that there hasn't been enough thought go into what the project will actually cost. Right, back into the writing your application. Most grants now, including FRRRs, are accessed through an online portal. And with our online portal, that's where you'll find the guidelines and the application form. It's really important to read the guidelines early and thoroughly. Plan well ahead of all the deadlines. You may be required to attach particular documents that you'll have to get from somebody else. And the most common thing we hear about is, I didn't realise that I had to get this particular document and the secretary's away. So if you know that you need to get it early, then hopefully you can grab the secretary before they go on leave. Most online forms, including FRRRs, gives you a chance to save and go back to it. And that way you can go in, run through the application form, go away, gather what you need and come back. We've also got a printer-friendly version of the application form that you can download to help share around other people. And by accessing early, you can get an idea of what the word limits might be and give yourself time to get quotes if needed and other evidence of support like support letters, other materials, anything like that. If you have used, if you've applied to FRRR before in our old grants gateway, unfortunately, you'll need to reset up a new account in our new Blackboard granting portal. But anyone on the 1800 170 020 granting line will be able to help you through that if you're not able to figure it out intuitively. It is a better setup and a better user experience than the previous portal, so people tell us. Some more general tips. Use simple, clear language. Avoid technical language and define words where necessary. Spell out any acronyms. Don't assume that we know. Just keep it clear and simple. Assume we know nothing and make it clear what you're going to use the requested funds for. You would be surprised how many times we have to actually go just to the budget to figure out what it is that they want money for. So just dot points are great. It's not an essay. It's not an exam. We just want to hear from you in simple, clear language. Once we receive an application, our assessors consider how well the project meets the criteria and how strong it is in meeting an evidenced demand or need in the community, and it will be compared with similar projects. It's assessed by grants officers, program managers, and the head of granting. So all applications go through those 3-4 sets of eyes, and the shortlist goes to a program advisory committee. Once those decisions are made, the recommendations go to the board, who consider and approve our projects for granting. So there's a bit of work to do before the decisions are made, and ultimately, if successful, yay, terrific. All applications are notified in writing about the outcomes. So if you're successful, there will be an email sent to the head of the organisation that you listed. So it could be the chair or the president or the CEO that was listed on the application form. And there'll be an email about the grant offered, how to access the funds, and this round we'll have a welcome pack as well. And we'll also announce on the FRRR website. If you're unsuccessful, which unfortunately the majority are because it's a very competitive grant round, and we never have enough money to fund all the great projects that we have, unfortunately. But remember, you've got to be in it to win it. We do advise by email and offer a chance for feedback. Don't take it personally, but take it as a chance to learn. So one of the things that I do when people contact us for feedback is I go back to their application, have a quick read, go to our notes, have a quick read, and then step through some what were the strengths, what could be strengthened next time. So that does take me quite a while to do, and I do have some backed up from the last round as well. But feedback really helps for the next one. And sometimes someone will apply, wasn't successful, got feedback, applies the second time, and is ultimately successful because of being able to strengthen the application. Once you're successful, then the hard work begins. You plan for success. Go back to your application, have a look at what you were going to do, and get the balls rolling. Track and keep records of all your grant fund expenditure. Take photos or videos along the way because it's a great way of telling the story of your project. But we know that sometimes you think it's going to go this way and then something happens and you have to shift, and it might happen this way. It might be you have to change a date. You can't get the speaker you wanted. You wanted to do it. You need to get another speaker. Those kind of things happen so frequently. Don't worry. If you have anything like that, you can contact us. We can talk about extending your project if you need a bit more time. We can talk about varying the project if it's moving a little bit too far from the original intent. But ultimately, we're here for you to help to the point where your project can be delivered and is successful. So yeah, always keep in contact with us if you've got a successful grant and that you're running it out. And then tell us how it went. Report back on what happened. Use our report form. Most grantors have a report form of one sort or another. Please don't send us a glossy report and think that you've finished your final report. It needs to go into the final report or the project report document, and it's all linked. So your application and your report, your photos, everything are all linked together so that we can use those to tell your story and celebrate what you did. Reflect on your activity, what you planned versus what actually happened. Think of the beginning, the middle, and the end, not just we had 50 people rock up and they had a great time. I'm sure that there's a bit more of a story to it than that. Include all the excitement and the achievements, but also include the challenges or the failures, because one of the things that we see is sometimes our groups run into all sorts of horrendous obstacles, and they are able to overcome them brilliantly and are successful. And those challenges that you overcome actually help us to understand the ways that other communities might be able to solve their problems as well. And don't be afraid to tell us about what surprised you, what you're most proud of, and if you did it again, what you might change. That's also really helpful and reflective for your committee to go through that kind of thing as well. So we're almost at the end. I would really encourage you to have a look at our Grantseeker resources that we have on our website. There is so many bits and pieces that are there. There's recordings, there's frequently asked questions, there's links to documents, templates, all sorts of things there. I would highlight the know and how of optimising community events if you're planning on doing an event, but also the know and how of support letters. That goes in depth into how support letters really can help strengthen that evidence of need, that evidence of partnership, and just having that this is something that our community wants. That's really helpful with those. And also encourage you to look at our other funding programs as well, like Strengthening Rural Communities, which is always open, the Nutrient Ag Solutions Community Grants Program, which will open next month, ANZ Seeds of Renewal, and our Future Drought Fund grant programs too, if you're in areas that are affected by drought. And finally, some other really helpful resources from external sites. Are You OK? Have a great lot of resources on their website that you can download or can arrange to be sent to you. So always have a look at the Are You OK website. The National Centre for Farmer Health and Rural Adversity Mental Health Program, which is a New South Wales-based organisation, both have released guidelines around doing events that address mental health and well-being and how to do it safely, both for yourselves and for the people that you're speaking to. It's really important to not just have an event and that's it. You really need to have that backup and support for the people in the community after that event, because people will go away and think about things and then perhaps reach out for help or discover that, they really do need to put their hand up. So I would really encourage you to have a look at both of the National Farmer Health and the RAMP information about engaging rural communities around mental health events. And with all of that, that is the end of my part, and we've got a few minutes for questions. I'll just, there's my details there, my direct email address, and our 1-800 grants call number. Please, any questions, any clarification that you want, please reach out to me in the next couple of days or early next week to see if we can get those questions answered for you, and then it'll give you so much more time to do what it is that you want to do for your application. Now I'm going to stop sharing, and yes, I do have people back on my screen, which is wonderful. Now we can. I'm just going to see if I can bring up the chat.
I can read the ones that we haven't discussed.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, April.
Yep. So from Emma Wallace, there has been previous feedback requesting evidence of First Nation involvement, but what if this is not where our need has evidence for program target market specifically? Of course, not exclusionary.
Okay, so and that would have been referring to a specific project, of which, I'm not 100% sure I don't know what that project would be. With regards to First Nations, if it's, of course, all projects need to be inclusive of people, and we assume that would be a given. Perhaps we shouldn't, but we do. But when there's opportunities to work directly with First Nations groups in your community, we welcome that. If it was a project that you wanted to do with First Nations, then we definitely need to see the partnership that you're working directly with them. But often we find in communities where there's really active First Nations groups, having a conversation with them and inviting them to be part of the event and organising the event can actually really open up some other avenues that people hadn't thought of. So, and that goes for working with any other group, a multicultural group or a disability group or something like that. Having the opportunity to have them around the table increases knowledge for everyone.
Another question from Val. Would mental health first aid training be for workers in rural areas or only for the public, please?
Generally for the public. If it's for workers, one of the first questions we would ask is, why wouldn't your employer be paying for that? There could be a very good reason for doing that. So it would, for the workers' perspective, it would be explain why that's not part of your general PD or how it will add on to what you would normally be doing with your PD. So we have paid for mental health first aid for workers before, but it's been an adjunct. It's been a very specific type setup. Again, welcome to have a conversation around that.
One from Tanya Greenwood. Can the target group be quite narrow, e.g., men over 55 years in a defined geographic area?
It can be. What I would guard against is saying, yes, we're a population of 40,000, but we're just going to be working with men over 55, and that's only this amount of people. Working with a narrow group of people is, you're targeting a specific cohort. That's okay. But when we're looking at population, we're looking at the whole population of the community.
And that's all in the chat.
And that's all in the chat. Excellent. Anyone online wanting to be brave enough to speak on screen? Well, excellent. If there's no further questions, well then we will conclude today's webinar. And thank you so much again for making the time to attend and for your patience at the start. It all worked fine when I tested it before, but it's always different when it's live. So thank you to everyone. Thank you, April, for being my very able wing woman. And look forward to reading applications as they come in. And again, please feel free to email me, set up a time, have a conversation. It's always best to talk specifically about your project and get down into the nitty-gritties. And I love hearing about the different approaches that people want to make in their community. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.